And welcome back, everyone, to another 1UP XP Show podcast. This one is a little bit special. I was reached out to by the Immortals PR people to sit down with their CEO, Jordan Sherman. Now, the Immortals had just announced they are going to be moving from LA to the Great Lakes region. They might be making a home near Detroit, Ann Arbor. But it's a big deal because they have some top-tier teams. Some may say, well, who's the Immortals? They are a professional esports organization, and they are making the jump to concentrate on the Great Lakes region. That is huge because we don't have many, if any at all, when it comes to top-tier pro organizations up here near and around the Great Lakes. But they are coming here and concentrating on the untapped great potential that is the esports, content creation, everything around the Great Lakes. And they have some big surprises in store for the Great Lakes region. So we had the ability to sit down with their CEO, Jordan Sherman, and here is that podcast. Enjoy it right after the intro. Here we go. Okay, let's go. Jordan Sherman, CEO of Immortals, thank you, man, so much for taking the time out and talking to us. You guys have some huge news on the Immortal, the pro esports side of things, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But we're talking to you as really the new CEO of Immortals. Let's dive into you because you're a Michigan boy. That's huge, and also you graduated from the University of Michigan. Go Blue! I'm unfortunately, you know, we had a rough week last week in the football terms aside. But it's okay. Don't worry. I still think we can win the Big Ten. But let's get a little background on you. How did it start? Were you always a gamer? How was it growing up for you in Michigan and then graduating from University of Michigan and getting to Immortals?
Yeah. So for me, I'm born and raised here in Michigan, and I grew up always wanting to go to University of Michigan. That was my goal. And my dream.
Too.
I was like my dad would take me and my brother up to Ann Arbor to games. And
that's awesome.
So I got to go to school there. That was a lifetime dream of mine. And when I graduated, I wanted to stay in Michigan, but felt like the opportunities for me to get into the field I wanted to get into, specifically sports and entertainment, were a little bit limited in the region.
Right.
And felt like I had to go to New York or LA in order to have that opportunity. So, you know, I ended up leaving Michigan. I got a chance at Major League Baseball, and I worked at MLB in the league office. And it was great. I worked at the Major League Baseball Advanced Media, which is the digital arm of Major League Baseball. And one of my first projects that they put me on was Facebook gaming. So this is like, you know, Farm was really big.
Yeah.
And we built this game called Ballpark Empire that you could actually like put in pieces of different stadiums into the Facebook game.
Right.
And then we started selling sponsorship around it. So you could put like peanuts and hot dogs and all these different branding elements into it. And through that experience, what I found out was I was, of course, really passionate about sports and technology and social media, but I was really good at bringing brands into the space, explaining them the game, and being able to incorporate large scale concepts in an easy way in which many people are playing. So I was at Major League Baseball for 6.5 years, working in corporate sponsorship and then working in the commissioner's office. Then I got a chance to go to LA, and I worked in the NBA for the LA Clippers for 2 years.
Awesome.
I had been in traditional sports with this gaming background, and esports was coming up, and I got the opportunity to work at Gen G, which is a global esports org in Korea and China, and starting up in LA. And what I really liked about the esports industry was that, number one, it was fueled by enthusiasts, people who love the space and want to see it grow. And number two, I think this industry really rewards creative people who want to be innovative and risk-taking and can back that up with hard work and execution. So I had been looking at the esports space. I had known that my sports background would really translate well into it, especially with the gaming pieces that I had. I worked at Gen G for 3 years. My final position was Chief Revenue Officer. And as we were kind of activating and we launched an all women's Fortnite team with Bumble, and then we transitioned it into Valorant. And I got recruited to go to Immortals. And I was very happy at Gen G. But when I was going through the process with Immortals and talking to the board, I said, you know, I'd be interested in this position, under a major caveat that I think the company should be based in the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
I'm from Michigan, and this is an area with a tremendous amount of demand for gaming and a very little supply. And we're stuck in LA chasing the same thing that all these other orgs are chasing. For example, we own and operate professional video game teams,
right?
And 10 of them in League of Legends, we have 1 to 10 spots, which is great. But 6 of those 10 are running out of LA, and the other ones are San Francisco, Seattle, New York, and Philly. So no one's really looking at this market. And if we're just going to build the company just like everyone else is, which is like an LA lifestyle influencer culture, and try to get like the scraps from these other orgs, we're not going to win. And therefore, I don't think it's the right company for me. And to Immortals' credit, they were like, let's do it. That sounds amazing. We want to support you and help you.
Yeah. That's huge. I mean, there is such a passion here. And I mean, when you look at the college esport level, even the high school, we have more high schools here in Northern Michigan with esports programs than we do colleges. But downstate, the college esport level and the talent is amazing. And it's not just Michigan. When you go to Wisconsin, you go to Illinois, you go to Indiana, you go over to Ohio, there is so much esports here that when you look at it, you're like, wow, the Midwest is really popping. And I credit Immortals. That's a huge move, but at the same time, it just seems so fitting because there are such a passion, not only for esports, but content creators. There's a lot of content creators in Grand Rapids. I mean, Nick Merckx is from down in the Detroit area anyway. Ninja. I mean, he's over in Illinois, I believe, right now. So, I mean, there's so many.
We have first of all, you have to understand the culture of Great Lakes. You have to be here, from here, really, to understand the culture. And I think part of the culture, sadly, has been you have to leave in order to get ahead.
Correct.
Even though there's like a ton of talent here. So why can't Immortals come to the region and lock it down and help keep that talent here?
100%.
Also, I feel the same way. Like, I hated the Yankees growing up and like the Knicks. And I think people in the Great Lakes region, at least myself, like, you have this chip on your shoulder, like, we're just as good as everybody else. Right. So give us a chance. And when we announced it last week for the Great Lakes region, we didn't say this was Detroit or this was Ann Arbor.
Right. It's Great Lakes region.
We said it's Great Lakes.
Right.
And we took a little bit of a risk because you never know how people are going to react.
Right.
And if you look at kind of the Twitter or the DMs or the people that have been reaching out, we're here in Milwaukee, we're here in Madison, we're here in Cleveland, we're here in Northern Michigan, we're here in Minnesota. Like, people are rallying around this and saying like, okay, Immortals is coming, we got to show up. And what I've been telling the team in turn is we got to show up for all of these people in esports. Like, we have to actually be about it. So that's what we're kind of trying to do. And we're setting up these opportunities to actually work with all these groups.
Yeah. And hats off. Cause you had over the 1st to the 4th, I believe it was, you had that kind of get together, or had the public show up to see what Immortals was all about. It looked like everybody was turning out in just crowds of people, which was awesome to see. Because this is huge news. I'm not going to lie. When we saw it on Twitter pop, everyone's like, oh, whoa, like, that's big, because you don't see that. You don't have that, feel here in the Great Lakes when it comes to pro esports. And I think you guys really, it's huge. But let's introduce Immortals and what Immortals is, because here in Northern Michigan, a lot of people might not know exactly pro esports, but what is Immortals? And what is it that you guys have to offer when it comes to pro teams and content creators?
Yep. So Immortals owns and operates professional video game teams. So if you kind of dial it back to the intro stages, video games are made by publishers, and those publishers have decided our game is so popular, we're going to build a league around our game. One of the biggest leagues is a game called League of Legends, which is made by a publisher called Riot. Correct. So there's companies out there like ours and others who are saying, okay, we actually want to own a franchise spot in some of these leagues. So we're willing to invest in players, in infrastructure, and talent to host a spot so we could participate. And the publishers select which organizations get to have teams. So not everybody can just start a team. You have to get into the league. So League of Legends, for example, has 10 teams. We have one of those 10 teams. And then they have different leagues across the world. So there's the US League, there's the European League, there's the China League. And then at the end of the season, which is in October, just finished, there's the World Championships. So everybody from the top teams, the top regions, meet for a world championships. It just finished in China, and next year it's going to be here in the US. So people are saying it's going to be the biggest moment in esports in North America in history. And I think it will. League of Legends has been in Michigan before as a tournament. In 2018, it came to LCA. You may have been there.
I heard about it, and I unfortunately couldn't make it. But yeah, when you fill Little Caesars with people watching League of Legends, that's huge. That's a huge.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's a mix of like Comic-Con, Halloween, sporting event, and a music festival. It's just like people love it, and they're really passionate about this stuff. So we, as a professional esports organization, want to actually bring these live events and activations to the Great Lakes community, and also help pro players and influencers get their start. So whether you're a fan or you're a potential talent or you're a potential player, Immortals wants to be the entry point for you into gaming in the region. And part of this is right now, a lot of these teams are based in big cities like Los Angeles. And we just don't think that's the optimal thing for at least our players. LA is a big city. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of entertainment. Whereas if we move it to like what we're calling a hub and spoke model, which is Immortals has a hub office and then different spokes across college campuses all over the region, we think we can actually have a more successful business that's better for our players. So for example, our players are like 18 to 24 years old. And many of them have decided to pursue professional esports and forgo college in this moment. A lot of them go after. So instead of putting them up in a big city, why not put them up in a college town where there's potentially, an esports arena, a meal plan, kids their own age, the opportunity to feel part of the community, host games and activations where the fans can kind of come and support. So this hub and spoke model not only will help us in the region, but I actually think it's gonna be better for our employees and for our players, because they're going to be part of an ecosystem and an environment that's more suited to like where they are in their lifespan.
Correct. I like that. I mean, that's a huge model. And you described it perfectly. It's very different when you get to those top tiers of League of Legends, and you don't have every team under the sun, but it's different when you talk those top tier esports pro teams, because when you have a League of Legends team, you have the Wild Rift team, you're building an all women's Valorant team out of the Great Lakes. That's a huge thing as well. I mean, you have what, 3 or 4 would be with the women's Valorant team?
Yeah, so League of Legends, Valorant, Wild Rift, and Overwatch.
Yep, there you go. Overwatch. Can't forget about Overwatch.
Yep. And we have a whole network of influencers and content creators.
Right.
So the people there, so the 2 things there. One, we're going to be launching an all women's Valorant team. So Valorant is another game made by Riot. Riot's a great publisher that we have a relationship with. And we're going to be doing a search across the Great Lakes region for women's Valorant players to be on the team. So as part of this, like, we actually want to source talent from the region. So we're going to be doing scouting events to find talent. And we're also going to do that in League of Legends as well, because a big part of this is like the path to pro. If you're a great player, how do you even potentially even get noticed by an organization?
I mean, it's a lot tougher than I think people really understand too, especially when you get to those top tiers. It's not easy. I mean, it's just like any other traditional sport. You have to be good at your craft, and you really have to put the time in the craft, but it's not just something you step up and be like, okay, I want to be part of your team. Like, it doesn't happen that way. Correct. So, I mean,
so that's one part. That's one part of the industry. It's the pro. Then there's another part, which is kind of just like the influencer and content creator. Right. So for people who are, if someone's new to it, basically there's gamers out there who are great gamers, but they're actually more entertainers than pros. Pros like really play the game 8 to 10 hours a day, have coaches, watch film, like treat it like a real professional sport. Right. Content creators are more of your influencers and streamers who are entertaining and engage with their community. There's a huge opportunity for more influencers. As we said, there's already great influencers that have come from the Great Lakes region and moved. So what we want to do as we're expanding our influencer team is also give more opportunities to people from the Great Lakes, A, to learn about the industry, B, to learn how to get set up, and C, build in some infrastructure where they could potentially be on Immortals as they're scaling.
I mean, that's huge, because there is a lot of content creating, like great content creators from here. And being from Northern Michigan, I can personally tell you, for streaming from 6.5 years, it's very difficult to grow, especially when you're, for me, it's always been kind of a limited internet access, if you will. I have very little internet available to me, but then as time grows, you get a little more, but there's so much talent here. When people hear Northern Michigan, they're like, oh, what are you doing in Northern Michigan? It's like, well, this is home for me. This is where I'm at. But a lot of those bigger streamers seem to be, Texas, Florida, Southern California, somewhere where they have a little more of that ability to do that. But the infrastructure, and I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you definitely see something change here in Northern Michigan, but there's definitely huge, there's a lot of content creators, just put it that way, in and around Michigan, in the Great Lakes region in general, that have a lot of talent. And I think you guys will not have any problem finding that here. There's a lot of good talent. So let's get into
that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I was
you're
going to
good.
talk about Immortals Invasion. So
Yeah.
then we decided, okay, so we've covered pro, I've covered influencers. Now let's talk about like social and community, because not everyone wants to be a pro or an influencer. In fact, that's probably the ultra minority. The majority of people is just people who like gaming, have friends, and want to game at home.
Right.
So we wanted to come up with this concept. Okay, if we're coming to the Great Lakes region, what can we do to showcase that we're about it and provide value to fans? So we launched in Ann Arbor last week, but this actually started 3 months ago. First thing we did was we worked with the Michigan Student Consulting Group and said, let's do focus groups and surveys to find out what people in this community want. Because if we just come in and say, we're Immortals, here's a tournament, or here's our idea, support it, it's not going to be reacted to well, and it's not going to be reflective of what the community wants.
Right.
So I found out was so interesting in these focus groups and surveys is people said, we actually don't necessarily need to see like your pros or your influencers. What we're really looking for is social experiences through gaming where we can connect with our friends at places we already go. And if there's free merch or free food, that's great. And I know that sounds like super simple. And some people are like, oh yeah, duh. But like, there's beauty in simplicity, number one, and beauty in just like recognizing what the community wants and then executing on it. So we came up with this idea called Immortals Invasion, which was one day of the week. We did what we're calling like a power hour, where it's like free boba, free pizza, free arcade, 50-cent tacos. So you could go to like the biggest places in Ann Arbor and get all these like merchandise and discounts and have a Wild Rift experience. Wild Rift is one of the games that we play in.
Right.
Riot wanted us to actually support. They gave us IP. So if you walked around Ann Arbor, you saw Immortals Invasion all over. And then there was all these different events, with the culmination being the Nexus Bash, which is like the come together event at Garage Bar. And we weren't sure. We've never been there. The people who knew us on campus was like 18% in the survey said they knew who Immortals was before this. And the lines were just like out the door, around the corner, in the cold, repeat customers, like people coming in, and they were just like, we're so excited. People were driving in from all over the state for the Nexus Bash.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've talked to Sibby Barton, who is the esports or the assistant esports director there at Michigan. We had her on the show, and when she started describing to me just how many kids they have at the University of Michigan alone, and this isn't just all of Ann Arbor, this is just the campus. I was like, wow, there is a hunger for video games at the University of Michigan, because there's so many kids enrolled in that.
Yep, 100%. And I think we served that community really well. They're having a LAN event on Saturday, and we're supporting that. So we have merchandise, and we're a sponsor, and there's going to be food provided by us. And I think what we've kind of finding is that Immortals as a company can be flexible in terms of how we show up for the region.
Yeah, and I just think you guys are doing it the right way. Like, there isn't a wrong step that I have seen here. Like, it's just so well done, and you guys are serving it on a platter, and it's just like everyone, even if you don't know who Immortals is, you're getting a taste of who Immortals is, and you're also sitting down with the people who know who Immortals is and giving them a taste of, hey, we're here now. This is what it is, and it's going. I can't talk. I'm a loss for words. I'm not usually lost for words here, Jordan. I'm just gonna tell you, I'm one of those people that don't lose words very often, but I'm just so excited because you guys are doing this. I mean, it's monstrous. I don't think people realize just how big Immortals coming to the Great Lakes region is. It really is something that we've been asking for so long, and it's finally happening. I don't know if we've really been asking, but we've been wanting. Put it that way. We've been wanting for so long, and it's finally happening. Let's
two small examples.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just want to say two small examples from the Nexus event, which I think are so cool.
Yeah.
We not only we sell out and lines around the door and everybody wants to be there, but like on the TVs, when we first showed up to the Nexus event setting up, it's like Judge Judy's on TV. And I'm like, okay. So we turned on Twitch on like all the different televisions, like 20 TVs.
Yeah.
And people like know the streamers are watching Twitch, couldn't believe Twitch was on at this event, which was amazing. And then we had these iPads set up for Wild Rift. And not only were all the people playing Wild Rift, but they took out because it's a mobile game, they took out their phones because we didn't have enough iPads and were playing themselves as well. And it wasn't forced. It wasn't like, hey guys, go over there and play. It was just like, set it up, you let it happen, you make things be social, and naturally this stuff happens well.
I mean, that's exactly what happens when you get gamers, passionate gamers, any gamers around each other. If there's a way for everybody to play together, they're going to play together. Once that fun is acquired and you have those, there's something about gaming. We've talked about this on every podcast I had. There's just something inside of you. If you've gamed since you were a kid, or if there's something important that just brings that nostalgia back, there's for some reason. Nowadays, it's a little bit different. Kids are born with video games in their hands. But like, you know, as for me being 36 years old, there's so many distinct memories of staying over at someone's house and playing all night, playing 007 all night because it was just so much fun and we couldn't put it down. And then you get to the online days and it's just like you want to log off to go to bed, but you just can't do it because you're just having so much fun. There's just so much community outreach, and then it's brought to streaming, and then it's brought to campuses. It's brought to the Great Lakes region. Yeah, of course, there's going to be a huge demand and everyone's going to sit there and play games together. I mean, I'm not shocked by any means that you guys had the outturn that you had when it came to the Nexus event. I mean, that's monstrous. And again, hats off.
That was one of my first experiences too, was in GoldenEye and Halo and, you know, being with my friends and sleeping over and family. And, you know, I think that's kind of the core of what this all is that it's always been social. I mean, now that technology has advanced and we have the opportunity to play online, that underscores it too. And even streaming. I mean, streaming is inherently a social experience, whether you're the streamer or you're the viewer.
Yeah, I mean, it's one giant community, and I mean, and that's what you're aiming to do is not only for you to have fun, but you want your community to have fun. And that's anything I've ever done since day one for streaming is I just want to, you know, have a fun community, create some content, create some entertainment for someone. It's free. Why not have them to come in and enjoy it and be part of the community? That's what I've always said about streaming. It's number one, fun and entertainment. So let's jump into some of the questions here. We've answered some of them throughout that little intro, but what drew you to Michigan and the Great Lakes region? We kind of described this. It's just untapped market. But the Great Lakes region in general, I mean, that's a huge step. Was there any like you said, they said, yeah, for sure. But was there any like kind of like weird faces when you told them that? Was anybody like,
You know, we put together this like 10-page business plan that we entitled Project One of One. And the idea is to be one of one in the market.
Right.
And for any new idea that's big, you know, maybe take some time to digest and think about it. But at least to our board's credit and our leadership. So Ari Siegel, who's the managing director, executive chairman now, he was the former CEO, and Tommy, who's also the managing director. They not only trusted the vision, but saw the big picture. Because I think it's like, if you don't have people, whether it's on your board or on the executive team, that like not only thinks it's a good idea, but believes in it as much as you do and kind of push it forward. It's like, never could have gotten done if this was just like my pet project or my business plan. Like, we have a really solid team in place that like helps kind of push this forward. And the truth is they push it forward because it's a good idea and it's the right thing to do for the company. There's, you know, we talk about it a lot of times, but all the gaming and esports companies, I think, are built in a similar fashion, which is like, let's get the best influencers we can. Let's showcase an LA lifestyle in this like aspirational Instagram world. And what I'm kind of showcasing is just that's not, for some people, that's great, but that's not the whole world. Right. And that's not the whole world of gaming. And specifically in the Midwest, it's a different culture. It's a different vibe than that. And as we kind of think about the opportunity here, we talked to Riot, who's the publisher, and they were like, you know, we have actually more players in the Great Lakes region than we do in Los Angeles. Yeah. So if you can help us and we don't have any partners to activate with them. Yeah. So if you can help us, we'll support it. Like, we'll activate with it. And then we go to the student groups and they're really excited to do it. Yeah. And then we go to Progressive is one of our biggest brand partners. They're based in Cleveland. So it's like, as we started to put together all the pieces, it just made more and more and more sense. Yeah. And all of our like investors and our team members got behind it for those reasons.
And I love it. I mean, it just makes sense. Like you said, I'm sure there was somebody like, why the Great Lakes region? But then when everything started falling into place, like, yeah, like you said, it just makes 100%. I mean, why even, I don't even know why somebody would challenge it once you put everything on the table. But in your opinion, what does this mean for esports and the region?
I think it's hopefully going to be, I think it's the most meaningful, impactful thing that our company has ever done. And I'm
Right.
hoping it's going to be the same for gaming in this region. Now, we have to show up and do it. But I really feel like this is the first time that someone can actually come out and say, whether I want to be a player or a talent or a business, or I'm on high school esports, or my child likes to play
Right.
and wants to be involved in Immortals, like this is an accessible esports org that is representing the Great Lakes and is going to build infrastructure for the Great Lakes among the biggest leagues in the world. And for us, we think that that's monumental. It's going to cause a shift. I think perhaps there's going to be other teams that start moving and building through this strategy. You know, Overwatch has geolocation, so there's a lot of like that's like city based. Like what we're trying to do is different than city based. It's not even state based, and it's this idea of kind of going after an entire region. There's like there's the New England Patriots, there's the Golden State Warriors. If Great Lakes Gaming can be something big like that for Immortals, and we share Immortals experiences throughout, it can mean a lot. I mean, we announced in Ann Arbor, and we have Buckeye Gaming Collective being like, even though we won't even spell their tweet, even though we won't spell Michigan, we want to activate with Immortals. Yeah. Like, how great is that? That like the fiercest rivals can come together for gaming.
We can put the feud aside for this, just for this, but yeah, we can put it aside for now. No, I think it was you who said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in the press release, I believe it said, esports is too young to globally take over the world. And he's like, we need to take a look at it regionally. I believe that's what you said. But I mean, that hit the nail on the head. When you look at it globally, you're not going to win that race. Like, it's just too young. And I've been saying this in all my podcasts. It's really, you can't even call it its infancy. It's still even younger than that. It's still kind of baking in the oven, if you will. But regionally, take over a region. And then we can start talking, 5 to 10 years down the road, maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit bigger there. But I connected with that statement very closely because I was like, that is something that hasn't been looked into esports yet. And when you look at Michigan, we are a hub for esports right now. And even just around the Great Lakes region. When I started diving into this podcast and getting college esports programs on and pros, there's so many around. There's so many around that might not have that exposure even. And it goes from club, it goes from varsity, it goes to just kids together in a community gaming under the collegiate name. So, like I said, it's major across the Great Lakes, but a lot of high school and college teams are here. Is this something you're looking to tap into going forward in the future?
Yes, for sure. So, so I just wanted to comment on your previous comment because I think that's true. I think there's a lot of esports companies, most companies in the world who are so forced, like, oh, it's digital and technology, be global. And you end up going global and you end up, what we say is like, you're a mile wide, but you're an inch deep. It's like, you're trying to do all this stuff. And because you're trying to do all this stuff, you can't actually like do that much in the specific areas.
Right.
So we're going with the inverse approach. Like, let's just focus on a region. Let's go really deep in that region. And let's actually show up for it. And maybe over time, 5, 10 years down the line, whatever it takes, we'll be able to scale globally through the core of that region. But if we try to do it that way, where it's like, we're global, we're here, we're there, we're in Europe, we're in Asia, we're in the Middle East, it's going to be too much and too hard. Let's just focus on like what we can do in the region and how to activate. And I think that strategy is going to help us out. And as part of that, like we want to connect with colleges and high schools. So what we're building out first is like a starter pack, which is basically a free access for high schools and colleges to get like rights to our marks, apply for merchandise, and apply for sponsorship for their events. So ideally what we'd like to do is if you're a high school or you're a college and you are throwing a gaming or esports event, Immortals is going to support you. You can use our logo, you can use our trophy, you could have merchandise for winners. We're going to participate in prizing. It's just part of our intro commitment to gaming. Reach out to us on Twitter. Our community managers will connect with you and you can have a real conversation and set it up. I think that's super exciting. I come from traditional sports. I know how that stuff goes. It's just so busy. Like you can't like connect with these teams necessarily. There's just, it's just a different industry, different business. Some teams really try hard and do a great job with it. But I think that's one area where we can win is like really help out there. And then 2, I think we want to do scouting and see like which players exist in this region and creating that path so they can actually be on Immortals. I think that's kind of like the goal. It's like if the next best pro from the Great Lakes is on our team, I think that's really solid. And then also in terms of just like community and social, as we build out like an Immortals Little League system. So that's the idea. Like if you have a child that's like 8 to 18 years old and they want to be on a competitive video game team, maybe they do music, maybe they do a sport, but they could also do an esport. Yeah. We want them on Immortals and to be participating both virtually and in person in an Immortals experience.
I like that. I like that Little League, the Immortals Little League. I like that. I've never heard of something like that. That's cool. I like that.
That's our plan. I mean, we have, so many parents that we talk to. It's like, my kid loves gaming. Yeah. I don't know what to do. I just kind of send them to their room. Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, that's a market opportunity for sure.
Yeah. Little League, man. I mean, when you take a look at it, traditional sports, they have little leagues and everything. Why don't I have it in esports? And I've said this for every podcast that I have. We just continue to open doors. Like we just had Gamer Doc on the other day. And when you think about it, there isn't any medical professionals that specialize in esports. They're just now starting to come up. But I was like, you don't play football without trainers. You don't play hockey without this stuff. You have to have a trainer when it comes to video games. Like people get hurt. People, strain their eyes. There's so many different aspects to medical that we didn't think about when it came to esports. And then, like you said, little leagues. Why isn't there little league teams? There should be little league esports teams.
100%.
I like that. There's so much I'm learning myself. And I said I've come in like 50-50. There's 50 of it that I knew, and then there's a lot of more than 50 that I didn't know. And just continue to learn.
That's great.
With the move to the Great Lakes region, we were talking business a little bit earlier, but some of the hurdles, I think you guys have a really good way of accomplishing this too with the business gaming summits. This is a great way for people looking to find out economically what gaming can do, how businesses, educators, and anyone interested, how do they get more info on those, and where will those be?
Yeah, so we're starting with Detroit, Columbus, and Cincinnati. And what we're doing, we're basically showing up in those cities and doing meetings with various companies in those regions to introduce ourselves, to learn more about them. And these companies can be like, potential brand sponsors, potential technology partners, real estate, gaming companies. Like what we're trying to do is like show up. And so I'm going to be part of it. Our executive chairman is going to be part of it. We're actually going to go to these cities and meet with these businesses and actually set up and see like where their partnership opportunities and chances to scale. So hopefully we're going to be meeting with people in Northern Michigan as well. If there's any, it's like businesses that are interested in that. I think just directly reaching out to us on Twitter is probably the best and easiest way. We get back to everybody there.
Right.
But that's what we want to do is like actually show up to the community and have like these one-on-one meetings with these companies and figure out, okay, who else is in this industry that's successful or has a great path, and how can Immortals help level them up?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, because like going back, like with this question and a few questions back, you mentioned, being there, being in person. And and you said digital, everybody wants to take global digital. There's difference between being there and being regional and being in person than there is digital and being global. Like when you can sit there and talk to somebody, it has way more of an impact than, like you and I talking digitally right now. Even though I can see you, it's a little bit different when you're, face to face with someone. So I really think with businesses or anybody who wants to figure out with a professional esports, they're sitting there talking to you or sitting there talking to a chair. That is a big difference than just having a Zoom call or having a Discord chat, whatever it is. Being there regionally or locally, that is a huge step. And I really like that idea when I saw it. I was like, those things are huge because not a lot of people here might be like, I want to get into esports, but how do I get into esports? And then you guys are sitting there talking to them. That's monstrous in my opinion. I really like that.
Well, we have we have a saying we just kind of talk about it every day with our team members. It's just like showing up can be a competitive advantage for our company.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a life thing, just showing up and being there on time, talking to people. Like you never know what's going to happen until you talk to someone, and who knows what that next time after represents. It could be a huge thing, not only for you, but for whoever you talk to. You might get a job in that place, or you might have us put in somewhere for someone else. Like it's a big thing, just talking to people.
Agreed.
So thanks, Jordan, for letting me talk to you.
I've noticed that too in gaming and esports because it's a young company, a young industry. Showing up here gets you I think stronger connections even than in traditional sports, to be honest. Like I like when I first started at Gen G in 2018, I went to a couple conferences and like I still talk to all these people that I met. I'm on boards for people that I met at that initial conference 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I can't really say the same about the NBA or MLB. It's a little bit different that way. It's like people really do stay in touch here. And I think like when you show up and showcase, you can get a lot out of it.
There's something about esports in general. And what I've noticed with going to some of these campuses and going and talking to a lot of these people, everyone's looking to help everyone grow and the benefit of esports. Whereas traditional sports, it's traditional sports. It's already grown. People are like, yeah, get out of here, or they're doing their job. They're playing for their, their food in their house and stuff like that. They don't want to give you their time. But here, like everybody wants to be involved in a helping hand because there's just so much unknown. Like what happens if I take a left down that path? Or what happens if I go down that path? There's so much trails that haven't been uncovered yet when it comes to esports that people are like, yeah, I'll help you get there. Or like the first, I use this example every time. The first time I set up a podcast, I'm like, this is not going to go well because I don't know who's going to say yes. Colleges came out of the woodwork like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, they're getting promoted, but they want to talk and spread the word of esports because it's huge and it is growing fast. But guess what? It's still not on the front page, front headline yet. And it will be, but we just got to help build each other up so it will be on the front page and headline. Like, Ninja did a huge thing for us. Ninja got us to the cover of ESPN. Ninja built up a lot of interest in this. But now it's the time for the rest of us to help raise the rest of the boats. Like, I really think that's coming very soon.
We did people ask me all the time, how do I get started in esports? Or how do I get a job? And it's a lot of it is based on that is what I tell, especially students is like, put yourself out there and do something and help somebody else be successful in gaming. And even if nobody shows up or it's unsuccessful, that's okay because you've at least proven that you wanted so much, you were willing to fail to do that. Whether it's like starting a podcast or streaming or putting together a gaming event amongst your friends or joining a club, like that's what we like to see is like people who are willing to say, I like it. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try it. Yeah. I'm willing to fail if it fails, but like probably won't. And that's, I think, the people who can be really successful in this industry.
Hey, I'm on the right path. So what are you most excited for with this move, man? Like, what is the biggest thing in your mind, both for you personally and Immortals, but what are you most excited for with this move?
I'm excited I get really excited every day, to be honest, like having conversations and just seeing how meaningful this means to people, what this concept means. But my vision, like, long-term down the line, and this is kind of what we're working towards, but like, I think to have this hub and spoke model. So it's like, we have a couple offices across the region that are, highly foot trafficked ground floor areas that you could like look in, gaming centers, business centers, having our players in the region as part of the community, seeing little kids, like as part of the Immortals Little League, like wearing our jerseys and supporting, showing up to an esports event or a match, like giving parents and families kind of the community vibe around gaming and esports, like building this up so it's like synonymous that Great Lakes and Immortals, we are the team that represents the region, working with the colleges and the high school. So I know that's like a million different things, but like that idea of what this company can be is what's exciting. And in many ways, it's personal to me because of like growing up here, it didn't exist. But in also ways, it's just kind of reflective of what's needed and what's wanted. And I think we can do that in a way that like doesn't take away from other companies or other publishers or other platforms. I really think it's additive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's even better, Jordan, is I can hear the excitement in your voice just as I can hear the excitement from people typing on Twitter or posting on Instagram or anything like that. The excitement isn't just one-sided. You guys are excited too, and that's a big thing. Like, I really, it's different when you see someone putting the effort and just enjoying every step of it. Whereas somebody's like, yeah, we're just moving to the Great Lakes region. No, you're just as excited as everyone else, and that's even better. Like it just hits harder. It's harder when it's enjoyed by both sides.
Well, the fan art, like it's in my background. We have some incredible artists at our team, but everything we do now for our releases involves like this type of fan art. And this is just indicative of our passion. There's actually like a ton of Easter eggs in this image that our team spends so much time working on. And that's the type of energy and enthusiasm and excitement we bring to every project.
Now, it's the last question, but I have to ask: your family and friends super excited to be back home, or what?
Yeah, they are. I mean, my parents are happy, and my wife's from Michigan, so
Nice.
that's cool too. My siblings are here, so that's been nice.
I mean, Thanksgiving and Christmas will be a little bit cozier, even if you did fly in, but at least you'll be closer to home now, man. I mean, that's a big thing, and I'm super happy and super excited for you. I'm super happy for Immortals. If you have time, we have a quick little game that we'll play.
Let's do it.
I know you want to do it at the beginning. We're gonna do it here at the end, like we always do. I have to find the questions real quick.
Okay.
But it's always super fun, and essentially what it is, when I made the podcast, I was like, this is going to be 10 questions in under a minute. But the problem is I ask these 10 questions, then people have to validate their answers. So it doesn't take a minute. Everybody wants to.
So you don't want me to stick to a minute?
I mean, you can if you want. But the thing is, somebody will give
I'll
an answer.
play by the rules. It's your game.
No. You don't have to stick to a minute. I trust because everyone always wants to validate their answers, so it takes way longer than.
So I don't get extra points if I do it in under a minute.
I mean, we could score extra points. You could be the first in podcast here, and like the 25 we've had that somebody did it in a minute.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go for the record.
All right, if you want to do it that way.
I'm gonna set a 1 minute timer on my phone.
Setting up the timer, chat. Problem with having so many shows and questions, you can't find the right ones. Where'd they go? Uh-oh, we broke them. I do know a lot of them, so. I think we're good. The problem was a lot of these questions were getting old, and people were listening to the podcast and then actually answering. They knew the questions ahead of time. I was like, you guys can't do that. That's not fair. I don't know what I do with them. Don't mind the mess. I was very unprepared. I do know a lot of these questions, but we'll rip through them. The last one's a big one, and then the 9 is like way out of left field, but it's a fun question. But once we get through some of these questions, you'll figure out why people have to elaborate on their answers. First one is quite simply, what is your favorite console?
My favorite console. Oh, okay. See, now I see what we have to. I mean, I grew up on Xbox.
There you go. Xbox, perfect answer. We've had that quite a bit. Favorite game?
I mean, I grew up playing GoldenEye and Halo, so I would go between those two. But I play Fortnite a ton with my little cousins on my phone, Fortnite mobile.
Yeah, I mean that is a lot of fun. You can't disagree with that. Favorite traditional sport or favorite traditional sport team?
Michigan.
Just University of Michigan?
Michigan basketball.
Michigan basketball? Hey, Fab Five. Basketball. Gotta love the Fab Five, dude. So let me see. What was number? That was 4 or 3?
Or the Pistons. 04 Pistons specifically.
I mean, yeah, you gotta give it up for Chauncey, and you gotta give it up for Prince, and I mean Rashid, Big Ben. Yeah, that was a good
97
team.
Red Wings would like to have a word with this question.
See, that's the problem, dude. See? This is where we run into problems.
Yeah, you can't do this in a minute.
No, you can't do it in a minute. He was stoked and ready, chat. He just couldn't do it.
I was ready. I failed.
Favorite snack while gaming session, or just favorite snack in general?
Ooh. Okay, so my cousin Jeremy Sherman works at this company called Snacklands, which was just on Shark Tank, and Mark Cuban invested. So
oh, really?
It's actually really good. 80 calories. Like you can eat the whole bag. It's 80 calories. And it's like a vegan pork rind. It's really good. So check that one out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that one out. I think that was 4. Number 5. I gotta think now. First car.
Ooh, I had a GMC Envoy. Ooh. That was the color was supposed to be pewter, but it really just looked like rust. So we called it Rusty. And then my brother drove it, and then my sister drove it, and then my dad sold it to the local gas station, and now they still own it. So Rusty lives at the gas station. We see him all the time.
Rusty lives on to this day. That's awesome.
Rusty had a child, Rusty Jr.
Rusty Jr.
But Rusty Jr. hasn't lasted as long as Rusty.
I love that story. Oh, that's funny.
It's pewter. Very few people have the color pewter,
Yeah.
and it just looks like rust.
Pewter GMC Envoy. I had a 1989 Ford Probe. That was my first car. Oh boy, what a car!
What color?
White, and it had the
Mm,
flip up headlights and then red interior.
that's nice.
That was my grandma's car. She liked traveling in style.
Your grandma's cool.
Number 6, dog or cat person?
Oh, dog. I get.
We like both of them.
I don't
but
tell
it's
people.
not-
I didn't grow up with pets.
Oh,
So
really?
I'm like, nah, I'm just. I don't really have it. But like, I have a 1-year-old daughter,
Mhm.
and she's starting to love dogs. And she goes woof woof. It's like one of the 3 things she says. So I've been really trying to. It's part of being a good dad. Be more accepting of dogs.
Yeah, I get you. I hear that. Trust me, every time I pull something out of the drawer and it's just dog haired, I was like, come on, man. I just want to wear something that isn't fuzzy for once.
Yep.
Number 7, favorite cartoon growing up?
Ooh, so many. Simpsons,
Yeah.
Rugrats, Hey Arnold, Family Guy.
You were
I love
part
Rick
of
and Morty.
you were part of the orange years, brother. I mean, Nickelodeon had a span of years where it was just that's what it was. Like it sucked all of us in. Doug.
Doug,
Oh,
Real
for me it was
Monster.
TMNT. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back in 80s, 90s, early 90s. That was mine. I would not miss that if my hair was on fire. So,
I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles birthday party.
oh yeah, I did too when I was 5.
It's just
The movie
insane.
came out and I had everything Ninja Turtles, man. That was wild.
I did a puzzle, Teenage Mutant Ninja
Yep.
Turtles puzzle for the movie.
Yep.
And like that was one of the first puzzles I did. Like it was like a 300-piece puzzle. I was so proud of myself.
Yeah, dude. And then Turtles ruled our life when we were kids. I mean, I don't think people realize just how much merchandise there was with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, man.
Yeah.
So
I
much.
still like animation. I'm still, I mean, obviously like all the Pixar's.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Toy Story. But I'm excited for Arcane. I actually haven't seen it yet, but
I haven't either. I have yet to sit down and watch, but everyone's been saying it is fabulous, which I
I'm
don't
really,
doubt.
really happy. I'm happy to hear the reviews are so good.
I think we're on number 9. I could be wrong. Number 9 is all right. This one's out of left field. Would you rather be attacked by one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Okay, hold on. Attack. Can I fight back?
Yeah, you can fight back.
Or run away?
Oh yeah,
So it's a horse-sized duck.
or 100
So it's
horse-sized duck.
That's a small horse, right?
So-
a horse-sized duck. Small.
One duck-sized horse, or no, one horse-sized duck. So that's a big duck, or
Okay.
100 horse-sized duck. Wait, 100 duck-sized horses. There we go.
Duck-sized horse. Okay, so it's 100 mini horses.
Yeah.
Versus
Or
a
one
giant
big horse.
duck.
Or one giant duck, yeah.
Okay. I guess one giant duck because 100 mini horses, I'm assuming, are fast.
Yeah.
And would like get you, and they would trip me, and I'd fall over and stop me. Whereas just one monster, horse-sized duck,
Yeah.
I could outrun or flank or get in rusty and drive away from.
Or get rusty. You could do that, or you could just have some bread on standby, and that's a lot of bread, but I mean, you can do
Like
it.
a whole big loaf of bread.
Yeah, big loaf of bread.
That's hilarious. I love Would You Rathers. I've never gotten asked that one.
Yeah, that's an old Reddit piece of gold. But last question, and one, I do want to thank you again for your time and talking Immortals, and the excitement here is high. But one place in the world, if you could move there, where are you moving?
I mean, I just moved to Michigan, so I can't really. I don't want to change that answer. I'm really happy with where I am now.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to what you guys are doing right now and the excitement, and I can't wait, man. It is going to be something huge, and I really think you guys are really paving some blueprints as you're going to see somebody trying to either copy or just kind of take a page out of the notebook. But Jordan Sherman, CEO of Immortals, thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it, brother. Thank you for your time. And I can't wait to get down there and possibly hook up, meet you a little bit, and see what Immortals has to offer down around the Great Lakes region, man.
100%. Let's definitely get together next time you're in the area.
Sounds good, brother.